Hello and welcome back to Media7. Barack Obama was elected last year President of the United States of America with a mandate for reform. He entered office facing an unprecedented slate of challenges in foreign and economic policy. But it's his attempt to reform the American healthcare system that led the Wall Street Journal to ask, after 7 months in office, can the Obama presidency be saved? The Journal's story didn't really make sense, but then very little about this new American furore is making sense to outsiders. Cop this.
I want an answer to the question. Is the money coming out of my paycheck?
Now, not to say it wasn't weird before, but the truly crazy phase of what is being loosely referred to as a debate on healthcare reform in America began on Sarah Palin's Facebook.
The America I know and love is not one in which my parents or my baby with Down syndrome will have to stand in front of Obama's, quote, death panel so his bureaucrats can decide whether they are worthy of health care. Such a system is downright evil.
And then suddenly it was the talk of Fox News Channel.
Death panels, death panels, death panels.
And death panels may in fact be not too far off on the horizon.
Hurry up and die.
The death panel concept was born of a preposterous reading of a minor section of the House version of the reform bill by industry lobbyist Betsy McCoy, who was just too much for Daily Show host Jon Stewart.
It seems like this bill is allowing people more control over their lives, and that your reading of it is hyperbolic and in some cases dangerous.
The Daily Show later mocked death panels.
The U.S. government should not be running death panels. It's far too big and out of control to effectively run something that important. That responsibility should remain where it is now, with private insurance companies.
Okay.
That is absolutely barbaric.
And it's not going to happen. So that
John, America is the wealthiest country in the world. Yet nearly 50 million of our citizens have no access to death panels. That is a disgrace.
But the idea has had legs, notably in Investors Business Daily, which editorialised,
people such as scientist Stephen Hawking wouldn't have a chance in the UK, where the National Health Service would say that the life of this brilliant man, because of his physical handicaps, is essentially worthless.
To which Hawking, who is British and lives in Britain, replied,
I wouldn't be here today if it were not for the NHS. I have received a large amount of high-quality treatment without which I would not have survived.
And soon, even the moderately sane media were drawn into such weird debates as this one on CNN.
Congressman Barney Frank lashed out at a woman. She was speaking to him while holding a poster that showed President Obama's face, defaced with a Hitler mustache.
And for the answer, let's return to Barney Frank.
On what planet do you spend most of your time?
I'm joined now by New Zealand Herald columnist Tracy Barnett and broadcaster and columnist John Dibvig. Welcome to both of you. Tracy, how did Americans get to this crazy juncture? What happened here?
Well, is the question really something I've always wondered? Is it biologically possible that the entire country is premenstrual? Is that what you're thinking? Because perhaps that would explain quite a bit. I mean, let's put aside the whole issue of healthcare to begin with and talk about this is a fantastic and amazing example of how the media is being played. Let me give you an example. The town halls where you're seeing people yelling and screaming at each other and guys wearing rifles slung over to their shoulders. What that's called simply is astroturfing. Astroturfing is basically a group of folks that get together to decide that they're going to create a fake grassroots movement. And what you're seeing, at least up until this point, and one of the things, not all of the things obviously, is that when those town halls are happening all over the country, there are big vested interests, insurance companies, private healthcare companies, big pharma, the Democratic Party, the White House, the far left, that are bussing people in from the very far right and the very far left to get their craziest voices heard because they know it will make the news. And it's been extremely effective, especially for the far right, to this point anyway.
Well, John, Tracy's saying none of these voices are real, but
a lot of them aren't, and I agree with her wholeheartedly because the stories in the media in the States, 3-1 on the hysterical side of it, the issues have not been raised, the underlying issues. It's all the hysteria, the town hall meetings. And the problem that Obama's got with, and Democrats have with this health care issue, first of all, too much government. He's taken over the AIG, he's taken over the banks, he's taken over the stimulus package, he's taken over the car company, and now all of a sudden he wants to take over health. Too much government in your face off the bat. That's one of the problems. The second thing is he's trying to cut $500 billion from Medicaid. Old people are screaming, as you saw.
Because they want their government health care.
They want their health care. Now, I just get, it's amazing. And as Tracy says, and as everybody knows, the issues. The Democrats are saying 50 million Americans are uninsured. Now, John McCain, the Republican guy, he comes out with a quote, even though 20,000 Americans a year die of treatable diseases because they can't get to a doctor. 20,000 a year. And John McCain came out last week and said the quality of health care in America is the best in the world. Number one. We are number one. The World Health Organization lists America at number 37. So there's a disparity there someplace along the way.
Well, I had to love Glenn Beck on Fox News, making precisely that claim. America has the best healthcare system in the world. 2 years after, on CNN, making an item about America's health system crumbling and being in crisis after he'd been into hospital and had a bad time.
Yeah.
It's...
Actually, the system is shambolic. 62% of bankruptcies are due to medical bills. 62%. And of that 62%, 78% of those had insurance. So even, sometimes statistics tell tall tales, but even so, if these statistics are lying by half, it's still a shocking number.
So why can't Obama get that message across? Is it true he's the policy wonk, he has no emotional connection?
No. I actually think that what's going on is Obama has made a strategic choice. What he did is he looked back and saw what Clinton did 15 years ago. There's a tradition where the White House basically provides the platform and the White House proposes and the Congress disposes. And Obama decided to flip that. And he said, okay, what's going to happen is I realized that last time when we had Hillary Clinton propose this, Congress chewed it up because we gave it to him on a plate. This time we're going to let Congress propose it themselves, take ownership for it, and then I'll step into the melee when it's time.
And it looks like that's about to happen next week. The news today was that Obama's version of the plan was due to be released next week.
He's going to come out. From living on this side of the world and, looking at Canada, looking at Australia, living here in New Zealand, I remember I had my gallbladder out here, and when the guy told me that it wouldn't cost anything, I said, you're bullshitting me. It's got to cost something, bottom line. He goes, no, not going to cost you anything. So, but living here for the last 30 years, I would say that we do it ass backwards in America. We look at the wallet first. How big is your wallet? And here, and in a lot of places in Europe, they look at the moral issue. We're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of the nation and then work the system around that. And we do it the other way around. And that's probably our individualistic type of thing, whereas the community is more important here. Individualism in the States, I think, is more important. And the other thing that, I think Obama is having a problem with, and why America's having a problem is if you look at administrative cost, in Canada, it's 4%. In America, it's 20% because of all the different fractions that, the administrations have to go through to get the bills out. So
do you agree with Tracy that Obama's playing 10-dimensional chess and it's all going to drop into place next month? Because that's the hopeful view.
I'm not saying that for sure. I'm sure.
Even liberal bloggers, even Keith
Olbermann
on MSNBC is saying, I've never seen the guy before where I've thought, he doesn't know what he's doing. So he's even losing the liberal media.
Yeah, he might get in there a little bit, but if you took a poll right now in the States, 75% of Americans would say their health system is fine. They don't even know that they're in the shit. So, what are you going to do? I mean, it's a minefield.
And they seem to have a very odd image of what healthcare systems are like in other places in the world. That Investors Business Daily thing was simply bizarre.
Well, they don't like the word social. In the States, if you say social to anything, they freak out, which is really bizarre because if you look at Canada, Canada's, got a nice health system. They take care of everybody. It's socialized medicine, but they take care of everybody. And you can see those old people there, they just go nuts when you talk about change. And it's just a hysteria, really, right now. And it's a tough one. But I go back to my original argument. Too much government right now. You had a recession, the worst recession we've ever had. You had a $750 billion stimulus package. You took over the Detroit. You took over the banks. You took over everything. And now all of a sudden you're going to say, well, guess what, folks? We're going to change the whole health reform system. Too much.
And that's why people are turning up to town hall meetings with assault rifles.
Isn't that weird? That was a weird shot.
Yeah, that was bizarre. But I mean, we saw there in that video before, CNN actually bothering to put together a panel to ask whether it was all right to depict the president as Hitler. Yeah. What were they doing using TV time like that? Is there anyone actually seriously reporting this bill in detail?
No.
Well, actually, I can't believe that I'm going to do this, but I will come to the defense of the media, even though they've done a horrible job of reporting on it. As a matter of fact, just today, the Washington Post came out, and their ombudsman said that of the 80 stories that have run since July, except for a dozen of them, all of them have been about the protests or about the political maneuvering. Yeah. So in other words, only a dozen stories even attempted to explain what this is about. Having said that, in their defense, you know what? This bill doesn't exist yet. Obama chose...
Because of your crazy system of legislating.
Exactly. The craziest system of legislating is that basically the wolves in Congress are chewing it over right now. And so if the media is trying to report what's actually in front of us on the table, they're just kind of throwing up balls, because that's what actually Congress is doing. They're throwing up test balloons just as much in front of the public to see what's going to fly and what's not. And that's what part of this town hall stuff is about too.
Yeah, and I would say I'd give a negative mark on our system in this sense, because to me, health reform should be for everybody. That should be a community thing. And yet the Republicans see a great chance here to score some great political marks, and they are stabbing them in the back. And they don't really care if it's logical or not. They're going to get the president.
And the interesting thing there is all the polls seem to indicate that they're knocking points off the Democrats' standing. They're not picking up those points. So that's interesting. That support is not going to the Republicans.
It's not. And if you look at, I saw Jesse Jackson Jr. in Illinois, a senator from Illinois, in one of those town hall meetings, and he was just getting barraged by older folks saying, "Are you going to vote for this?" And he's coming up for re-election, so he's going to say, "No, of course I'm not going to vote for it."
The most fascinating media organisation in all of this has to be Fox News Channel. I mean. You're not averse to watching a little bit of Fox for the amusement, but it seems that this year, since Obama has become president, reality has gone out the door there. Almost nothing that is said on that channel is true.
No, it's not. Well, and just recently, I forget the guy's name, but a guy running for Senate in Idaho has said he's going to go out and buy Obama hunting tags. To shoot him,
because he was absolutely unheard of before this, and it's giving him numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is that people like Glenn Beck, who's doing amazingly well in the ratings, he's like the Claude Van Damme of political commentary. You know that when he walks into the room, he walks in with his guns blazing, and there's going to be dead bodies when he's finished, and a huge amount of destruction, and none of it's going to really advance the plot, but it's going to be really loud, and it's riveting to watch.
Yeah. And it's your guy Murdoch that did it anyway.
Yeah. He's not New Zealand.
He's not our guy.
He's on your side, more on our side.
Yeah. Do you think, just finally, is there a danger in the way this debate has gone? Because it has become crazy and hysterical in many quarters, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it has. I don't know about the health issue in a larger sense. I think it's a sad indictment that it's going to take Obama down a little bit. And if it takes him down too far, I just think that's sad myself.
You know, the New Yorker had this fantastic article that I loved, and it used an analogy that I'll kind of bastardize a little bit. And it talked about healthcare as a house. And normally you have an architect or a contractor would oversee all the different facets of creating a house. But what happens in the American system is you have the electrical engineer or the electrician design the house, and you pay him per plug. And so you end up with a house that has 27 plugs per room, and the house falls down on your head because the carpenter's been paid per beam. And that's what's happening in the American system. We're the most expensive system in the world that has some of the poorest outcomes in industrialized nations.
Well, we'll see if Obama comes out with a metaphor that good next week.
Okay.
Tracy Barnett and John Dibvig, thank you very much. Well, that is all on healthcare for now, but I suspect some of us will be watching it all on YouTube for a while yet. After the break, the reinvention of Metro.